Imagine this. Your supplier issues you an invoice via KSeF, the Polish National Electronic Invoicing System, so that legally this invoice exists. It has a KSeF number, and yet when you log into your company's KSeF account, it's not there. It's simply not visible. And this is not a hypothetical. This happened to one of my clients. And today I will show you how we found the missing invoice and what you can do. This doesn't quietly happen to you. Hi, my name is Michał. I'm a Polish licensed tax advisor and I provide accounting, cost calculation, tax compliance and tax advisory services for small and medium-sized enterprises in Poland. In the next few minutes, you'll hear a real anonymized case of an invoice that went missing inside KSeF. I will also present to you my working theory, why I think this happened, and one exemplary practical control that catches invoices like this. KSeF, in Polish Krajowy System e-Faktur, is Polish National Electronic Invoicing System. The supplier sends the invoice into KSeF, the system assigns it a KSeF number, and from that moment the invoice officially exists and is treated as delivered to received by the buyer. And this last part is key. Delivery of the invoice happens inside the system, inside KSeF, and not when you receive a visualization of this invoice as a PDF file via email, not when you open this PDF file, and also not when you actually read this visualization of invoice delivered to you as a PDF file. So if an invoice sits in KSeF and you can see it, you may have a problem you may not even be aware of, because potentially, not necessarily, but potentially you will not deduct input VAT indicated on this invoice, you will not treat the net amount of this invoice as your tax deductible cost, so as a result you will pay more tax. So here is what happened in my case, with of course names and other details changed. My client, let's call them ABC Spółka z.o., a Polish limited liability company, was going through a rebranding. They changed the name and the new name was registered in KRS, where KRS is the Polish National Court Register, which is the official Polish register of companies, where all such changes in the companies, also a change of name, should be registered. And on the very same day at which the new name of this company was recorded, registered in the Polish National Court Register, one of ABC Spółka z.o.'s suppliers issued an invoice to this company through KSeF. But this supplier indicated on this invoice still this company's previous name, namely ABC Spółka z.o. But as mentioned, at the very same day at which this invoice was issued, this company already had a new name, which was officially registered at the Polish National Court Register. And that invoice never appeared in this company's KSeF account. The company logged into KSeF, checked the incoming purchase invoices, nothing. As far as their KSeF account is concerned, this invoice didn't exist, but in reality it did exist. Luckily, the supplier sent to my client also a visualization of this invoice as a PDF file via email. And it is also worth mentioning that supplier was not obliged, according to Polish VAT provisions, to provide the buyer with such visualization of the invoice as a PDF file. Now, the visualization of the invoice itself is not the legal invoice. The legal original of the invoice only lives in KSeF. But every visualization of an invoice, also an invoice issued in KSeF via the so-called online mode, as exactly in the case I am describing, carries something very useful, a QR code. That QR code lets you verify the invoice directly against KSeF. So we used this QR code and KSeF confirmed it. The invoice was in the KSeF system, real, issued with its KSeF number. It just wasn't showing up in the client's own KSeF account. So we ended up in a strange place. The state's own verification tool says it is in KSeF, but the buyer's KSeF account says there's nothing there. Now let me be honest with you. I really don't know for certain, and frankly nobody, hopefully a part of the Polish tax administration itself, seems to know how the whole KSeF system behaves in edge cases like this. But here is my working theory. Do you remember the timing? The invoice was issued on exact the same day. The company's new name was registered in the KRS, in the Polish National Court Register. My suspicion is that the same day change is what broke the matching. Somewhere between the register updating the company's data and KSeF routing the invoice to the buyer's account, to the buyer's KSeF account, something didn't line up and the invoice fell into a gap. I want to stress it, it's a hypothesis based on the timing and not a confirmed explanation. If you've seen a similar case, I would be glad to hear about it in the comments below. An invoice, you can see, potentially is a cost you don't book as tax deductible and potentially also input VAT that you do not declare and deduct. In our case, we were able to see this invoice because, as mentioned, the supplier sent to my client also the visualization of this invoice as a PDF file. So what can you actually do about invoices you can see on your KSeF account? Here's one exemplary measure I recommend, which, by the way, also should have been introduced before KSeF existed in order to catch up all the invoices. Namely, analyze your bank statement. The logic is simple. Every payment for goods or services that you acquire that leaves your bank account should match an invoice in your records. So you go through the outgoing payments one by one and pair each of them with an invoice. A payment with no matching invoice, that's your red flag. That's exactly the kind of gap where a KSeF missing invoice can hide. Now the weak spot of this method: cash. If an invoice was paid in cash, and these tend to be smaller, lower value ones, such expense never touches the bank statement. And if on top of that, the supplier never gave you a visualization of the invoice, there may be no trace of that invoice in your records. So for cash purchases, you may remember to always ask the supplier for a visualization of an invoice at the moment of purchase, unless of course the supplier provides such visualization automatically by himself. On the other hand, if you indeed have a lot of such cash expenses, you may prepare and keep a record of all of such expenses in a given period by yourself. And then at the end of this period, you match each position in these records with purchase invoices paid in cash. Okay, this is everything from me in this video. I hope it helps. And by the way, have you seen an invoice disappear in KSeF? If yes, tell me in the comments. I would be glad to hear about this. Okay, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.